Well, I think first because we show in the last 8 years that it's completely possible to have a deep decrease on deforestation. You come down from 2.7 million hectares in the Amazon to about 500,000 hectares right now. Obviously, the marginal increments of this success will be more difficult, but we took it out 2.2 million hectares of difference. So why don't we cannot take the next 500,000 hectares of deforestation? So I think it's feasible. In fact, there are some states that assume the commitment to have what they call zero net deforestation, between what is the real deforestation and what is recovering, not plantations, but recovering as natural forests, will be equal to zero. So I think it's feasible. So I don't want to be discussing drives of deforestation, but maybe, like as our colleague said on the presentation, the drivers of restoration and sustainable forest management. People used to make this in the past, saying like, you look at the GDP growth and then you look at the deforestation and say, oh, you see there is some connection, to grow the GDP you need to grow deforestation. And what we saw in the last 8 years is, well, this connection is not there at all. I mean, in fact, in the last 8 years, Brazil took it out from the poverty. About half of the poverty of Brazil was seized. We are now a middle-class country. This happens in the last 8 years. The unemployment rate is the lowest in the history. It's like 5% now. This connection that you need to clear-cut forests to development, it's, at least in the case of Brazil, it's not there. That's not the case. We're showing that you can grow, and actually you can grow and reduce unemployment and so on, at the same time decrease deforestation. That's real numbers. It's very difficult to give value to something that you really don't have a relationship to that. It happened with our family, it happens with our work, it happens with everything. We want to push the people to be really proud about the fact that we have the forest, and then we are capable to actually develop at the same time protecting the forest, not just for ourselves, but be proud by the fact that we provide a service not just for ourselves in Brazil, but for the whole world. This is part of what we do. And to be really shamed if we don't care about that. You have this municipality, Paragominas, which is a pretty big municipality. It's about 2 million hectares in size, which is, is the size of Belgium or something like that. So it's a huge municipality. And they have this history of being the pioneers in the region. But they were the pioneers also for the bad things. When they start up the municipality, they happened to have almost 400 sawmills operating. At one point, they were one of the largest producers of timber in the world. There was a lot of conversion of forests into pasture and so on. And eventually, they lose about 40 to 45% of the forest cover in this period. But one interesting thing happened in 2008. 2008, Paragominas was included on a list of the municipalities that have the worst record on deforestation and forest governance. And there was like about 25 municipalities in this list out of the 500 municipalities in the Amazon. And the reaction of the municipality was completely different from most of the other municipalities. Instead of saying we will fight against that, how you put up us on the list, we will not get finance from the banks and so on. They worked very hard to actually be the first municipality to get out of the list, which means to decrease deforestation by more than 60%, and they have also to register 80% of the land, showing who is responsible and so on. And they actually perform much better than that. The deforestation last year was virtually close to zero. They installed a municipal governance of the forest. And I think the main driver for that was that the people want to be proud about them. They were really proud about Paragominas, and they don't want to be on a list that says that they are the bad guys. They want to be on the good side. So now Paragominas is one of the municipalities that they have the largest areas of reforestation in the country. We should be doing the good thing because it's good for all of us. That's the game. It's why, for example, we choose in Brazil to not have any offset with the decrease of emissions. It's by far the largest decrease of emissions in humankind from the human activities, like over a gigaton per year that we are just taking out from the space. But we don't want this to be used, just to offset somebody else's emissions, because it's not helping the world. So it's kind of, yeah, it would be great if we can share the burden, but we don't want to do this in an exchange of, somebody else continues to have the emissions. Also because one of the main impacts of climate change in Brazil will be the dramatic impacts on forests. And so we lose the game anyway. I mean, we protect the forest, but we just protect that. To allow someone else to emit will not help us.